Have you ever had issues putting your thoughts into code or parsing a coding challenge or prompt? Well, I've got the cheat sheet for you. Coding languages. We know you can translate a function from JavaScript to Python to Java and so on. But one of the harder parts when you're just starting to code is how do you translate English to code? Well, in this video, I have a snippet from a Udemy course that shows you how you can look for certain keywords in a prompt and what they mean in terms of JavaScript. Here it is. So whenever you see keywords get, read, retrieve, that means reading values from a dataset of variables. Here, let's look at a couple of examples. First, we have the get the first item of the array. All right, so we have an array list with a bunch of strings in it. Well, the first element in an array is just the element at index 0. To do that, we just say list bracket 0, right? And that's pretty much it. Now, let's retrieve the value of property key and object. So let's say our key is foo. That means we need to retrieve the value 1. So that's simply saying obj.foo, and that gets us the value 1. Right? So this is what it means to retrieve or read values from datasets or variables. So the next bunch of keywords that we have are set, update, write, create, or anything that convey that we want to set the values of data or variables. So for example, here we say set the value of the variable temp. Well, we can set it to whatever the prompt's saying. Let's say it wants it to set to a Boolean true. So we can simply say const temp equals true. Something like that. This is how we create a variable and set its value. Update the third item in the array. So let's look at our array list here. Right now it says hello foo bar. Bar is the third item in the array. We want to update that. So let's say we want to update that to baz. All we have to do is say list the third item, which is index 2. I want that to be buzz. That's pretty much it. So that's how you update values, and that's what it means whenever you see keywords set, update, write, or create. Moving on, we are now going to talk about conditionals. So if you see keywords like if else, when X do Y, compare something, right? The English is basically trying to tell you that your code should have some kind of condition. So the very basic of condition is having an if statement, right? So for example, here we have if num is greater than 5, console log hello. That looks like this, at least in JavaScript. Console.log and then hello, right? Pay attention as well to the actual wording, right? Greater than 5 means 6, right? Or 5.1, right? If something tells you that it should be greater or equal to 5, right? Then it should be the greater equal sign, okay? Then we have something like if two strings are the same length, combine them, otherwise log mismatch. So this is a classic if else, right? So let's say we have stir1 and that the length, right, is the same as stir2. So I'm gonna type that out. So if they are the same length, combine them. So maybe we'll combine them by storing it to a result. Let's say lava variable res, right? So we're doing stir1 plus stir2. So that's one way to concatenate strings in JavaScript. And then else, right, we need to log mismatch. So console.log mismatch. Right? So that's basically what your comparisons look like, or what whenever you see keywords like these, right, that means doing some kind of conditionals around the code. Okay? All right. So next thing, the keywords we're gonna look at are iterate, loop, find, search, do X for Y times. So keywords that are synonymous to this, they're basically asking you to do some kind of loop. Okay? So let's look at the first example here. Add all the numbers in an array, right? So for example, we have an array, let's say it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, right? We need to add all the numbers in the array. So that means creating some kind of loop. So in JavaScript, let's create a simple for loop. Okay, so for I equals 0, I less than r dot length plus, we are gonna add each number, and then we need to store that, let's say, right? So let's sum, start our sum at 0. So sum, sum plus equals array I. Right? So that's a simple loop that loops through every element in the array and add all the numbers in the array. Okay? There's like more ways to do this, but I'm just showing you like a basic for loop. Next thing, we want to search for the value true. So maybe we have an array like this. So let's clone our array and call it array2. And maybe, it's an array of different data types. So let's say 2. We have here hello, and we have true. And maybe what we want to do is find the index of true in this array. So this time let's do a while loop. So I'm gonna create I here as my index, right? And then while I is less than array2.length, we are gonna look for, right? So here we're combining kind of like what we learned earlier, conditional. So we want to look for the value true. So that means if array to I is equal to true, right? We want to check for an actual Boolean comparison here and not just a true t value. As in JavaScript, there's true t and false t values. Let's return I, right? Something like that. Otherwise, we just need to increment our index. Don't forget to increment your index, or you're going to run into an infinite loop when you're writing while loops. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this one. The next thing is we want to log the numbers 1 to 5. So this is of the format, do x for y times, right? So let's do a for loop again. I'm going to just copy this for loop right here. We want to start with 1, right? 1 to 5. We're going to end at 5. So we'll do it less than equals. And then we just want to log I, right? Because I goes from 1 to 5. And that's it. That's logging the numbers 1 to 5. Okay, so that's pretty much your basic kind of creating loops or iterations. And that's what kind of the code that you have to write whenever you see keywords like these in a prompt for a coding challenge. Next, we're moving on to functions, and really this is the most common thing that you're gonna read on like a prompt, right? It's gonna ask you to create a function that does something. Okay, so let's look at an example here and parse through it. So you have create a function called add, right? That takes 2 arguments, which are both numbers. It returns the sum of the 2 numbers. So here we have a simple function declaration, right? So look at this. We have the function keyword, meaning we're trying to create a function. We've got the function name add as mentioned by the prompt. We have our arguments, x and y, right? It says it takes 2 arguments. So we gave it 2 arguments, which are going to be numbers. And it returns x plus y, right? Because it adds them. And so you see we have the return keyword here that returns that result. Okay, so this is what you can expect when someone's asking you to create something. And this is what basically it means when you're creating, translating that English to the code. So let's look at it on a different way to create function, because there's multiple ways in JavaScript. Now let's use the ES6 arrow function. So it looks like this, right? So as you can see, the structure is very much similar, right? But instead of having the function keyword, you can just name this function using, const, the name add, and it equals to this syntax right here is a function that accepts 2 arguments, x and y, and then the body of the function here, which returns x plus y. Okay, so that's pretty much all there is to translating a prompt like this the one we have up here, into an actual code like this. Okay, obviously this is very simple. It can get a little more complicated, but at the very high level, right, it's really just looking at what the function name is, what it accepts, and then what it returns, right? And what it does within its body to those arguments. So let's look at a more involved example down here. You want to create a function called repeat that takes an array of strings. It returns a new array with each string repeated twice. So here we actually have an example of what the new string looks like, right? So if we are passed, or we have a string called hello, it's going to be hello, hello, right? It's repeated twice. Okay, so pay attention to these, because these are obviously helpful hints that, someone's asking you to write code that you should kind of follow, right? So here, let's parse the prompt. The function name is repeat. There's one argument, an array of strings, right? So here you can see that takes an array of argument, which is an array of strings. The return value is a new array, okay? So just these are the important parts that you should be remembering whenever you're reading something like this. Again, the function name, the arguments, and what it returns. All right. So here's an implementation of repeat. So repeat takes in an array, right, represented by R here. We are gonna create a new array because we want to return a new array in the end, right? So new array is this, right? And then we see a keyword here which does something with each string, right? So that's a loop, right? So here we're using a for off loop in JavaScript. So kind of like a quick overview, for off just means a word represents the iteration of each item in array, right? So word is the variable that represents that. So now we're just doing new array.push, which adds a new element in our array. Word plus word. So we're doing the word twice, right? We're concatenating the string. And then in the end, after the for loop is exited, we return the new array. Okay. That's pretty much it. So after you console log repeat foo bar, you'd see foo and bar in the array. Okay, so that was it, and I hope that was informative. If you like that content or curious about the rest of the Udemy course, then the link is down in the description below. Please don't be shy and say hi in the comments. And if there's anything you'd like me to add to this cheat sheet, then just let me know. See you next time.